Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, today I'm joined here by Mr. Patrick Behuhuma, who is studying abroad here in Japan, or have studied abroad in Japan and currently living in Japan for quite a few years now. So yeah, today I'm just with him, and we're gonna talk about his experience with studying abroad in Japan. Yeah. So before we get started with that, just want to have Patrick introduce himself, his background, where he's from, and where he studied in Japan. Please, Patrick.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know how usually we call you Susan. I don't know how should I call you? Xiao Shan?
Yeah, whichever is good. Yeah. But your audience is students back in Africa. So you'll be talking to them. You're not talking to me.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to join this interview with SARI, if I am not
That's
mistaken.
correct.
So
That's
SARI
correct.
Broad Research Institute. It's very interesting and it's quite impressive what you guys are doing. So I hope this platform can be very useful to African students who want to come to Japan. So once more, my name is Patrick Behuhuma, and I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is located in Central Africa. And for those who don't know, I think actually all African students know that we have two Congo in Africa. So there is one more, which is smaller on the west side. And yeah, anyway, so I came to Japan 10 years ago as a Japanese government scholar. So the government of Japan, through the Ministry of Education, MEXT, so they have scholarship, and I applied for this scholarship when I was back in Congo. That's why I could come here. Just a little bit, if I may talk about my background before coming to Japan and after arriving. So I studied law in Congo. So in the university, like a private university in Kinshasa, the capital. It's called Université Protestante au Congo in French, which is like the Protestant University in Congo. And after graduating from the law school, I had an opportunity to do an internship in a law firm just for a year. And in the meantime, I got introduced to a member of parliament who was the chairperson of the like external relations of the Senate. So I was working as his assistant. And then through that connection, I was going to embassies, European Union, like representation. And I got this information about the scholarship. That's how I could apply to come to Japan. And so uh, after coming, I went to Meiji University, which is a private university in Japan. And maybe some of you might know it's the within the program that Japanese government started, like Global 30 that time, to globalize or internationalize Japanese universities. So Meiji University was one of them. So during the process of applying for the scholarship, I had to pick maybe 2 or 3 universities as like first choice, second choice. And Meiji University was one of them. And luckily, my supervisor at that time, a German professor, was also a law professor, was interested in my topic. So he accepted my application. So that's why I could come to Japan to study here. So at Meiji, I did a master's in public policy. Um, I think it's a little bit, well, there is a lot of things to talk about, but maybe there are many other follow-up questions. I can talk about my research and all of that later, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in short how it happened.
So you studied Masters of Public Policy. When did you? So you arrived 10 years ago, and I guess you finished within 2 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I came in 2011,
Yeah.
like April.
Mhm.
I arrived in Japan. And actually, first of all, you as a MEXT scholar, you need to like enroll. Of course, you have your program. It could be a master's or a PhD program, but you have to study Japanese. I think it's like 6 months. It's decided within the program, but this is just for, life in Japan. But again, if you're gonna study in Japanese, then you need to improve, you need to go farther. So my program was actually in English. So I took 6 months at like Japanese education, language education at Tokyo Gakuge University. It's like art and science. They teach people want to be teachers or professors. That's where I learned Japanese for half a year. And then I went to Meiji University again. I continued my Japanese language education for half a year while I was doing a research program before starting my master's. That's, yeah.
Okay, so you basically went through a year of Japanese language training before you started your master's program, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so you graduated around what, 2014? Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So
Great.
I think it depends on people, and it depends on the program also you choose. Usually, I think the research period, it's so like 2 years, and then if you do a master's, like 2 years, and then PhD, 3 years.
Right.
So overall, like 7 years. That's kind of the general like pattern. But in my case, I did a research only for 6 months. After 6 months of the compulsory, if I can say, Japanese language education. But during my research period, I also was taking Japanese classes as much as I could because it was free, but it was like every day from 9 to like 2 p.m. So, but I couldn't have time to study other like subjects. So during the compulsory period, only Japanese. But after that, then Japanese plus other courses like research method and so on. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm guessing that before you came to Japan, you didn't have much knowledge of the Japanese language. During this 1 year of Japanese language classes, how fluent did you get? Right, because many students they always wonder how difficult it is to learn the language from scratch.
That's true. It's a very good question. Actually, before coming to Japan, when I knew I'm gonna come to Japan to study here, I had to find a way from Congo to learn. And there was a guy, a Congolese guy who was teaching Japanese, but he came to Japan for only 1 year. So at that time, I didn't find a school, like a Japanese school, like a Japanese language school per se. So it was just a guy, teaching people in some location. So I went there for 2 months only.
Right.
And then I just knew how to say like konnichiwa, sayonara, like hello,
Basics.
goodbye,
Okay.
like
right.
Thank you, like arigato. But then after coming to Japan, I started again. I restarted from the beginning, from scratch. And because the program was very intensive, like you have a lot of like homeworks, a lot of quiz, and you have to be engaged in activities that foreign students are doing alongside with Japanese students during that period, like the 6 months. So I think that was really helpful. And the dorm, I think when we came, we were staying at the dorm, most of us. So I had like a Japanese volunteer, like really old guy, helping, through they had, like, for example, in my case, I was staying at Soshigaya International House. So that was a dorm of Japanese government, but they sold it later on. So then they had a Soshigaya International Friendship Association. So that's like helping, foreign students like who are staying there. So
Right.
they were teaching us Japanese for free and taking us to the city office or going to open your first bank account. That's all these experiences really helped me because I had to communicate with them somehow
Yeah.
to improve. So during the 6 months, to answer your question, I would say, yeah, I started to speak already, not really as fluently as I can speak today,
Right.
but I was already able to communicate thanks to that
Right.
courses I was taking. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm guessing, I mean, this gets into some of the more practical side, because your MEXT scholarship is for the master's program, but you did this 1 year of Japanese language class before you started the master's. Is the cost of this 1 year of language study also included as part of your scholarship?
Right. I think depending on the type of scholarship you're on, for example, MEXT scholarship, as far as I know, either you do a master's or a PhD, if they didn't change the system, usually there is a 6-month period of language just for you to kind of get into Japanese society, to get the culture, and that's included in your scholarship program.
That's great.
So
That's great.
I think the government, the government is paying for our tuition, and also you have a stipend. So I didn't get to pay anything on top of, I mean, from what I was getting from, my stipend. I didn't get to pay anything. So I was studying for free. And when I went to Meiji University, before starting the master course for 6 months, again, I could take courses for free again. So I didn't need to pay for that. So I think it really depends on what type of scholarship you are on. But my MEXT scholarship was like free. And my friends were doing also PhD, like they have more like 3 years, so they could continue. But well, as you may expect, like most of students are involved in the research and they have to take other subjects, so they don't really have time to learn Japanese. If they are doing their research in English, it's gonna be really challenging.
Yeah, that's
most
true.
people are like giving up, like, yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. What about the dormitory? You say you stayed at the international house during your language study, and also when you were living, when you were studying Meiji University, you also stayed in dormitory, right?
Correct.
Is this also paid for by the scholarship?
Okay, that's a very good question. So in your stipend, I remember back then, 10 years ago, my scholarship monthly like amount I was receiving was about $1,500 US. It was including everything. Of course, I have to pay from that stipend. My rent, so the dorm, whenever, if I decide to live in an apartment or the dormitory, I will pay from that money. And like the daily life, like expenditures, like transportation, like going to school, you need to pay for the pass, the commuter pass, and eating, like everything, paying the utility fees, everything was included in the stipend. So yeah, and it was the good thing is the dormitory was Japanese government dormitory before they had to sell it to a private another university, Sophia University. Now it belongs to Sophia University, but it used to be just so like Soshigaya and the Komaba Todaimai, which is another, but they sold it to Tokyo, the University of Tokyo. And then I also stayed in another dorm, so 2 dorms, Soshigaya and Tokyo International Exchange Center, TIC, which is probably the biggest and belonging still to the government.
I mean, I stayed there too. I also lived there for a while.
Oh, that's right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So anyway, as you said, yeah, it's really a good point for students who want to come to Japan to know. You might, the scholarship might be taking care of your tuition, like for every I don't know, 2 years or 3 years, but they might pay for everything. And also you have a stipend. But in the stipend, I think in general, you have to take, it's like your living costs in Japan. So they won't pay for you on, it's not like a pocket money. No, you
Right,
have
right.
to do everything.
Yeah.
So you have to be really smart there. That was really hard to manage. Yeah.
Many students ask if the scholarship stipend is enough for them to live in Japan, or they have to, I don't know, work part-time extra on the side to make more money so that they can survive in Japan. Did you think it was financially difficult during your student years while you're living in Japan?
Well, actually, it's a very good and practical question to consider before coming to Japan. They told us that when you come, before coming, this is maybe one point I didn't mention, like 1 month of your expenses, you have to bring that money from your country. Example, the stipend is 1,500 US dollars. The first month they won't, because of administrative stuff, you have to have that, right? So then from that, the second month, you'll be getting the money and so on. So for me, it was, I don't know how to say, it was at first, I thought it's enough to live because, well, paying the rent and everything, I think it's okay, it's enough. But again, it depends. Okay, I'm African, so I'll be very straight with my brothers and sisters from Africa. Like we all know, like even if you are students or just the fact that you live Africa, you are outside. Let's say you go to a developed country like Japan or America or France. Mostly your family would expect you also to help with like family stuff, like to send back home some money. So if you have to consider that, then it's not enough because it's gonna be too much. It's gonna weigh on you, right? But if you don't have to send any money, because when I was student, they understood I can just send a little bit, but now I'm working, so I can send more. But as a student, if you have to send every month, it depends. Let's say if you send $200 or $300, it's huge. As a student, it's a lot of money, so it's definitely not enough. So you might need a part-time job on the side. And in that case, you need a permission from your supervisor, which I got. I got the permission to work when I was offered like a TV job on a Japanese like channel, NHK. I was doing Cool Japan since I was in university. So my supervisors didn't see any inconvenience because I'm talking about cross-cultural thing. And also I was teaching English in like elementary school as a ILT or doing presentations in Japanese schools. So that's education and cross-culture. So it was okay. So it really depends on your relationship with your supervisor to get that permission to do part-time so that you can have enough, to live during the month.
Is it fairly common for people to work part-time to get more money, or is your experience rather unique? Among the people do they mostly work, or do they mostly don't work?
Well, I think it depends on every student's situation. If, for example, your parents are rich or your family is wealthy, right? And you don't need to like work to make extra, that's okay. You can just focus on your study. And there is one thing I think you also know this, like there is a limit, like you can't work more than 28 hours.
28 hours, yep, that's correct.
Per week as a student. Because they want you, the university or the government of Japan, the Ministry of Education, want you to focus on your studies so you can complete your degree within the set period. So depending also the type of job you can do, maybe 28 hours can be enough. In my case, which I can say with other friends, other international students also, we were doing pretty much the same thing. I mean, the students I was with at the dorm, some of them were working in restaurants. Some of them were doing like teaching assistant, kind of TA, like part-time at the university.
Yeah.
In my case, I was mostly teaching English and also doing TV jobs. So it really depends on your situation. But I would say no matter your situation, if you are an independent as an adult, independent person, you just might need to have a part-time job.
Yeah.
That was the fact. I could see many people around me working to make more so that they can enjoy their life in Japan, because they want to travel. You want to go to Kyoto, Osaka, and it takes money, all these things. Even to watch a movie tickets in Japan are even more expensive than America.
Yeah,
So,
it's true.
right. So, I mean, all these small things. If you want to enjoy your student life, community life, everything, you will need that part-time job.
And when I guess when you first arrived in Japan, your Japanese wasn't fluent, so you're trying to get a part-time job without having very fluent Japanese. Do you think, in your experience, is it relatively easy for people to get a part-time job if they want, even if they don't speak Japanese well?
Well, I think as a student, most of part-time jobs people do, I think the most popular is teaching English, especially if, okay, even if you're from a French-speaking country, but you study in English here, and the requirement, before it used to be, you have to be a native speaker, like English speaker, but it's kind of changing now. So in that sense, I would say it might not be challenging for most people to get a job, even if you don't speak Japanese. But I would say, in my experience, I could say you have an advantage over other students if you know Japanese, definitely.
Right.
I'll give you an example. There was a project I just saw in international division, like in the university I was going to at Meiji. I saw a poster. They are looking for international students to teach about their countries in Japanese schools, like junior high school and high schools, but you have to do it in Japanese. So I was like, it's the program called the Ryugakusei ga Sensei. Maybe you've heard about that. So it means international students are teachers, and it's an association for the promotion of international understanding that was actually receiving some funds from the Japanese government through the Ministry of Education. So they were very serious, and they were paying a very good money. You cannot believe, for 1 hour of teaching, you get 8,000 Japanese yen, which is like $80. If you we say like $1 is 100. So if I do like only 2 lessons, you can imagine on one day I'm making already a lot of money, right? As a student. So that was because I did my best to learn Japanese. It was really challenging. And I got that job. I asked my friend, a Japanese friend, she's actually like half Austrian, half Japanese, same university. She was studying with me there. And then she said, I'm going to help you apply to write in Japanese the application form. But you have to tell them that they helped you write, but you can speak. So during the interview to get this job, I was so nervous. It's like, oh my God. But the little Japanese I knew helped me get this job. So this is one thing I want to tell students who are really willing to come. Don't be afraid of your level, whether it's Japanese level or English level. Nothing is impossible, as we say, because I was not sure. I was almost competing with people from China, Korea, like international students who are very fluent in Japanese and they can read the kanji. So I was not sure if I can get it, but I just tried and I got the job. That's what really made me enjoy also my student life, because I was making really enough money that I needed to live here. And then later on, another opportunity came through the same association to teach English as an ALT, assistant language teacher, in 2 different elementary schools. in a span of 2 years. So, and it was really compared to ordinary ALT, they were paying again really good money, like almost 5,000 per hour. So I think,
Wow.
yeah. So, mhm. So you have just to try. You have just to
Yeah.
keep trying, and really learning Japanese is really a must. That's my advice.
Yeah.
It's really
Okay.
gonna help. Mm.
Yeah, it's good to hear that there are some really well-paying jobs if you try to find them.
Yes, it is. They are.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess before we get to that point, of course, as students need to apply for the school and they need to apply for the scholarships to get to Japan first, right? So I want to ask you a little bit about what do you think is the difficulty of applying to Japanese universities and to Japanese scholarships? Like, which part did you find it to be difficult? And I guess you know, how hard do you have to try on your applications and everything in order to get into a Japanese university?
That's a very good question. Interesting. Um, Actually, as I mentioned before, I'm from Congo, which is a French-speaking country. So the first challenge was translating all the documents from French to English at least. Of course, because we don't speak Japanese there. So at least you have to apply in English. So I took the application form. Everything was in English. I could read and understand, even though at that time my English was not as good as it is now, because I was just speaking and learning as in Japan people learn at school. So I didn't really go to like English education school per se. So that was a bit challenging because I had two options. Either I pay money to somebody who's gonna do translation, official translation, which is costly,
Yeah.
or I do it by myself. I took the challenge. I translated everything, my transcripts, my diploma, my research proposal, like all these documents with the list of courses I took. Like I studied law, imagine like a penal law or whatever, civil law, from French to English, everything one by one.
Wow.
And then I went to the university. I submitted the documents. I put a mention non-official translation, which was okay with Japanese embassy. That's a very important point. You don't have to spend money finding people might not really give you the quality you're looking for sometimes, even if it's a good quality translation, but you can do it by yourself. This is for French-speaking, I mean, students who are from French-speaking countries, because you must submit everything in English. So that was the first challenge. And the second challenge was you have to take English test. Actually, Japanese embassy organized the English test first. And so you need to be able at least to explain, well, after the general test, which is just like a TOEFL, but the level of TOEFL is higher. But that one was, in Japan, we say TOEIC. So it's still, helped people to kind of understand what they are trying to do. So, and after the English test, you have an interview. Interview was in French, which was native. I'm a native French, so okay. But then in English, it was a little bit challenging. It was a kind of broken English at that time, but it helped me, took me here. So if you can improve your English, that will be really a good thing to do. And also presenting your ideas in the form of a proposal, a research proposal, that was not easy, because you need to clearly show the motives or motivation why you want to go to Japan. Of course, we have interests. Like my interests were like, I'm interested in samurai and ninja since I'm a kid, the movies. So that was the things I liked. But that's not enough, and you can't even start with that. That's really like at the end, you can say. You have to start with clearly highlighting your like motivation, why you want to study in Japan, and why is this research important. So showing the connection between my research proposal and the development of Congo, that was really challenging. but I came up with something that ultimately could convince the members of jury, so I could come here.
So
Yeah.
you have to show your academic interest and how it's linked to Japan somehow, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So in your process, you went through your local Japanese embassy. Seems like all of the submissions were done through the embassy and not directly with the university. So I'm guessing that not everyone will have the chance to go through the embassy program. Many people might be submitting directly to the university, to the Japanese university itself, and then getting admission from the university and then thinking about the scholarship. So I think that's probably the majority of the people, right? The number of people who can get government scholarships is very little. Yeah. So would it be much more difficult if it's done directly through the university rather than through the local Japanese embassy?
I see. Very interesting. Actually, I think, well, I was watching one of the videos on your YouTube channel explaining a bit the process, and I could see like some, students like from overseas want to come to Japan. They can also apply through the university directly because there are different kinds of scholarships. They're like JASO scholarships, and even universities themselves, they have like scholarship programs. So as you said, in my case, it was through the, because it's a MEXT, it's the government scholarship. So you need to go to a Japanese embassy or consulate in your country to get the application forms and then submit. And then during the process, after your application has been accepted, then you can have they will ask you to choose some universities. So you can go through the website and see what kind of research you want to do. If the university suits your interests, your academic interest, then you can apply for them. So I can say, I don't know which one is easier or more difficult. Both might be challenging because the common point is you have to convince the supervisor. So you can say, okay, let's say the university scholarship, the university will be paying for your tuition and give you a stipend, but you have to choose a professor, a supervisor in the database, like the faculty members. You have to find one in the department you're interested in. Let's say if you're doing economics, maybe the Department of Economics, and you have to find, okay, you are doing studies related to bank, insurance. You have to find somebody who has that background, and then you have to kind of have what I did. I had a meeting, like online meeting with him, my supervisor, explain again. After going through the process with the Japanese embassy, I had to convince him again somehow, and then he could deliver the letter of acceptance that, okay, I signed, this student is coming. So I think that's maybe the common point. Even if you go through the embassy, you have still to interact with even through email, you have to interact directly with your supervisor. That's maybe the bottleneck. So if you can convince, you can pass that. It's not a test, I would say, but if you can convince, like, this student has interest and passionate about his research or her research, that will be probably the most important thing to keep in mind.
I see. Okay, so finding a supervisor and getting support from the supervisor is very, very important. I see. Yeah.
Yes. May I add something quickly? I think both you and I know that in Japan, supervisors are really, really important for your academic journey, especially as a foreign student. You are receiving a scholarship, especially from the Japanese government, because they pay them a lot of money to take care of you. So they are like your dad and your mom. That's why I said you have to get their permission to go to do like part-time job. And maybe I'll have a chance to answer, maybe to explain this while answering other questions, but about like when you come during your research period or like doing your master's or PhD, that interaction, the personal interaction that you'll be having with your supervisor in terms of academic debate, in terms of considering his or her feedback to your research. There are many important things and personal experience that I have that I love to share if we have time, but it's really important to keep in mind that your supervisor is like God. Success or failure.
Okay. Yeah, understood. Okay, thank you very much. Next, I want to ask you a little bit, well, just in general, you know, your experience, so you lived in Japan for quite a while. Your general experience in terms of living and studying in Japan, you know, the positive aspect and the negative aspect, you know, anything in particular that stands out on both the plus and the minus side that you want to share with students in Africa?
Okay, exactly. That's actually what I tried to explain earlier, that well, my experience, I was a MEXT scholar and I was planning to do also my PhD, like all the way. And this is nothing, I just want people to make sure, to understand, I want to make sure people understand that it's just my experience. It's not all people's experience or all other students, and everybody has their own experience. And so in my case, if I may say, for example, the good points or the positive like aspects of studying in Japan is Japan is a country that offers a lot of opportunities to international students who come here, especially if you, okay, well, maybe some students who are coming from like Southeast Asia, probably most people like don't speak like English, they study in Japanese because they already know, like, you know, they speak their language in Japanese, even not Chinese or Korean, even like Vietnamese, I can't speak English, only Japanese.
Right.
But if you, like from Africa, as you speak English, and if you can learn Japanese, you become like fluent in your language, which can be English, or if you like me, French and English, and then Japanese. So you can imagine like opportunities for you if you want to work here to get like professional experience. That will be really, really helpful. Why I'm saying this, because like to get a job in Japan, it's almost like a must for most people, like to speak Japanese language. At least if you can't, you don't know how to read, you will improve, but you have to know how to speak it. So my experience after graduating, I had a chance to join a Japanese company that was looking for people to work in the African division because they wanted to expand their business in Africa. So I had the chance to do the job interview just with the chairman of that company.
Wow.
Only one time.
Wow.
In Japanese.
Yeah.
So I was like so nervous. I was not sure, but again, it worked. And I got the job. I worked there for 4 years. I was even able to go back home to travel to Africa on business trip and so on. So my point is, take advantage of all opportunities that you have while you are here. Number one, learning Japanese education. And number two, the people, for me, I think Japanese people are very kind. I mean, they like the community, helping international students in their journey, especially like, let's say the staff at the university or local community. Like if you live in a dorm, like it's really true that they help you. So making friends or connections with like local people or the like academic stuff, not like becoming just friends. I mean, just being in a good term, right? And it really helps your life to be like how do you say, smooth as a student in Japan. And well, other than getting jobs and so on, but Japan is a melting pot, especially if you study in Tokyo. You have a chance to interact with other students from other countries that might open even doors to your you know, post-academic you know, journey in Japan. So that's probably, I don't know if I answer from that side, like the positive side. There are many other things, I like small things, but
Yeah.
I want to jump to the, well, what we can say negative side. So I tried to say that in a way. I don't want to sound uh, like how do I? It's really difficult to express.
We don't want to be discouraging, right?
Discouraging. Yeah. Thank you. I don't want to discourage.
Yeah.
Just my experience was I was doing a master's in public policy, and my research was. Please keep in mind, I'm a lawyer back home, so my research is about how to establish the relationship between the infection with HIV, AIDS, and your work. So the title or the topic I was working on was like the compensation and the prevention and compensation of HIV as occupational disease. Now, it sounds a bit confusing for many people from the background, like law background or public policy background. As you all know, like public policy being the process of making the law, we need to take into consideration the dangers that workers are facing at workplace. And in this case, nurses or doctors or lab technicians, they are exposed. Today, let's just say COVID-19, coronavirus, okay?
Yeah.
Even if we don't talk about HIV.
Yeah.
So now to establish if you get the virus because of your work or just because you are not careful with your life, you can also get HIV. So that was really the most difficult thing. So the problem I had was I didn't have enough data, like people have to report that I had an accident, and after 30 days, the incubation period for HIV, and then it was seen that I have the virus because of this accident that I had at work. So this kind of data was not enough, and this is just a system problem. Maybe we have in Congo, or like reporting in hospitals. So my supervisor thought I'm not taking my studies seriously, that I don't have enough data that I cannot prove.
Right.
So maybe my mistake was I had to be flexible to change the topic, but it was almost after a year of in the middle of my or even to change the supervisor, because it depends on people, how the person you work with. So one of my friends changed supervisor. She was fine at the end, but I stayed with the same person. So we didn't have any problem as a person, like personal relationship. That was okay. But academic debate, for me, it was enough. It was okay what I was doing. But for my supervisor, it was not.
Not enough.
So you have to be really careful how I put it in the negative side because I thought I could still go to the PhD and improve my research, because you do more research in PhD. But she was very strict with me on that and asked me to rewrite my thesis at the end of 2 weeks before the final submission.
Wow.
So that was
wow.
And sure. I did it. I went to submit my thesis, and I was almost like 5 minutes, almost 5 minutes late after the submission time. Right. So that's what I'm saying. I put it in the negative side because Japan is very strict, and it can be good, but it can also be not good because of that situation that happened to me. They didn't consider. So I had to wait for 6 months to submit my thesis. As a consequence, I lost my PhD scholarship.
Oh no!
Which I already got.
Right.
I did everything I got. So I lost my PhD scholarship because of that.
Wow.
And also I was about to lose my visa because I had to wait from January to March that the faculty members come back from the holiday and then kind of judge if I can graduate
or not.
in March with everybody, or not. Then the decision came less than a month before my visa expires. Can you imagine like the stress and everything? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of realities in academic world, and it's maybe not personal, but these things can be happening to anyone. So you have to be really careful from the beginning. If you don't see clear, if you can change the supervisor, you have a possibility to talk to other professors and find guidance, change. That's one. If you cannot change, this is really important. Just do whatever your supervisor is advising. Even if you don't like the contents of your thesis, just write it. You can change later in your debates or your books or your papers. That's my advice.
Okay. Yeah. So you
Sorry,
have
I
to
was a bit long.
No,
that's really important.
that's a great advice. Just be practical so that you can graduate on time and avoid all of these issues, you know, especially with visa. I'm sure it's going to be very, very stressful. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the thing is, I had to find another, maybe your case was probably the same. I don't know, like your supervisor, no, not the international division, sorry, the director of international division of your university is your guarantor, basically, because you're international student and you are attached to a university, but your supervisor has power on, like, I mean, if we can counterbalance more than the international division director, and in the faculty members, when they have meetings, whatever your supervisor will say, if she or he says green light, yes, you go. If he or she says no, you have no. That's why I said she or he is like God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think the difficulty on the academic side is well understood. I mean, at the end, you successfully, you know, graduated from your master's program, and you're now working basically full time since 2014. So you made the transition from becoming a student to becoming a full time, you know, professional in Japan. So was that transition difficult in any ways? You know, I'm guessing a lot of the students who are watching this, you know, they want to graduate in Japan, they want to stay in Japan and work. And many of them are probably wondering, you know, how difficult that would be.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. It's very interesting. So again, it depends on what everyone want to do with their lives. Like after graduating from university, some people, I have friends who couldn't fit themselves in Japanese system or society, and then they decided to go back to Africa and then continue to work or start a new business. But in my case, I didn't judge like it like to go back to Congo right after graduating, because I wanted to get more experience and learn from Japanese like professional working style. And then someday, because I have ambitions, you know, to go back and work in politics, like in the policy area with like as a member of government or parliament in the future. So I thought Japanese experience working with Japanese company will be really, really useful. So the transition was challenging because after graduating right away, to find a job at that time was not easy, because you have to do job hunting. In Japan, they use the expression job hunting. You are like hunting a job. So you have to go to many seminars by both like 100% purely Japanese companies and also international firms like based in Japan. And sometimes they go to your university or they organize a big study fair where they make presentations. So I did that. And eventually, to be honest, I didn't find something that was like suitable for me, because my experience was I wanted to go to do my PhD and then become also an academic, like doing research and then like working for UN or something.
Right.
So from what I just told you, you can understand my journey was kind of disturbed.
Yeah.
So I had to be flexible and adapt myself to this new situation. And again, as I mentioned, connections are very important with Japanese and also other foreign people in Japan. The job I got to work for DMM was actually through my friends. Who just were doing recruiting business for like to help foreign students to get a job in Japan, like something that like you are doing. This is very interesting because information like students can get here can help them. So that my friend was doing, and then they told me this Japanese company wants to go to Africa. If you are interested, you can get this job. So luckily I got it. So it was not like I was in the path as like after graduating, I'm gonna join a Japanese company. I'm more of a free guy kind of thing mindset. I want to do many things in life, especially in media. I love interacting with a lot of people, networking. So that was my purpose, to work in a global organization like the United Nations. But it didn't work as I planned. So it was really challenging. Again, the language back then, 2014, we are like now 2021. So my Japanese was not really great. Well, it's still not great, but was not as it is now. So it was really challenging to go through the process of finding job, like job hunting, everything, the documents in Japanese. So I first decided to join a company. Bell is a very big English education company with Benesse in Japan. I was working with them for a year, the time to rethink, what I want to do. So that can be another option. If you're not sure, don't just go into because just you want to stay in Japan or because you want to work, just get this job first. It can be good, but it can be also frustrating and depressing sometimes because working in Japan is really hard. It's like being in the military. It's not easy to work with some Japanese, some companies. So you have to prepare yourself. If it's an area you are really familiar with and you are passionate about, then go for it. Then you will be able to learn the language and work in that. If you are just doing it because just, first let me get a job, you might already start thinking about plan B while you're doing that job. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I mean, I think we have been talking for a lot longer than we're supposed to. But I guess my last question, basically to finish this interview, is whether you have any advice. You already gave a lot of advice, but any last moment advice that you have for African students who are thinking about the option of studying abroad in Japan in the future.
Okay. I get many people contacting me from Africa too, like from, I don't know, like they saw me on TV or somewhere like you studied in Japan. Like after this interview, I'm sure I'll get some email.
You get some. Oh, don't worry, you will.
You will post it. Right? So what I usually tell the people, like, my first advice is you have to be very proactive because sometimes I'm African. Well, I understand a little bit how sometimes my friends from Africa, other like students, think or proceed. Some people wait for everything to come to them, or they wait to get all the information. We have internet today. Internet is there. So before coming to Japan, try to find necessary information about life in Japan and also about even Japanese education, because there are websites like NHK, they can teach you Japanese in French, in English. They call it Easy Japanese. So I also find out after coming to Japan that there are many resources on the internet that you can have access to before coming to Japan. That can be step one. And step two, don't complicate your life by trying to impress your supervisor.
Yeah.
They know that you are starting a journey like doing a master's. So just be honest and open with them. Don't try to convince them or to show them that you know a lot. That will turn really to be a nightmare later on. So, and if you arrive here, of course, you will get them, maybe they will pay for you the transportation, the tuition you come. After arriving, try to develop, maybe you're not friends with your supervisor, a close like relationship, really like a parent with a child. It's really going to help you even after the university, the extracurricular activities, sometimes going to have a drink or a meal, just to talk and asking these questions to your supervisor, that he and she can feel that you are very close. It wasn't really the case for me. Maybe that's why I got in trouble. I can say.
Right.
Yeah. And on the academic debate side, I already said, try your best to get as much information as possible, to gather as much information as possible regarding your research. Because if you don't have enough data, most people get stuck, and sometimes they extend their like the year, and then you have to pay with your own money. Your scholarship is just for 2 years or 3 years. You have to finish, depending on you are doing like it's science or literature, like based research. So you have to get enough information. And yeah, Japanese language, I said it many times, that really going to help you, going to save your life in Japan.
Okay, understood. So try to make your own life as easy as possible, as simple as possible while you're in the country. And
yes.
learn Japanese.
That's right. That's right.
Great. Yeah, I think that's it. We don't want to take your time any more than this. It's being close to an hour. Well, thank you very much, Patrick, for sharing your experience with all the African students who are potentially considering studying in Japan. I'm pretty sure once they watch this, it's going to be very helpful for them. Yeah.
So, thank you very much. We call you Susan.
Yeah. Thank you.
Japan, maybe you have to put son after the name of the person you are talking to, which shows respect. Like, my name is Patrick, you say Patrick's son, I will feel loved and respected. It's okay, we are friends. So thank you so much for having me today. I had a great time, and I may even suggest, this is not the end of our collaboration. I'm in Japan. I do a lot of things related to academic, also like sometimes I go to make presentations about my country in other universities. And if we can have a session, live session, where participants can ask me questions, as I could see in one of your videos, that'll be great. I'm gonna be available. We can do it.
Sounds great. Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sir.
Okay.
Okay.